It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Brian, Natasha asked this next one, and this is what she said. She said, I'm over the income limits for a Roth IRA. Should I put $6,000 into my Roth 401k and then max out the rest of my 401k with the traditional option? So I can't do Roth. Should I do $6,000 there, and then should I do the rest? Two things I'd love to hear you speak on, if you would. How does one decide whether they should do pre-tax or Roth when it comes to their 401k? And if you are someone who determines pre-tax, but you're over the Roth limit, are there other ways that you could potentially get money into the Roth bucket? Are there other strategies you could employ?
Natasha, hopefully, and what Bo, the low-lying fruit, because I love saying let's do both, is the low-lying fruit is the first, because they haven't gotten rid of it yet, is to see if a backdoor Roth conversion strategy would work. Because there is a way, if you make too much money to contribute directly into a Roth, that you could make your money with an after-tax traditional IRA contribution and then convert it into a Roth IRA. The only way you can do this, though, is if you don't have a lot of other IRA assets. So if you've got a rollover, a SEP IRA, a simple IRA, really the only IRA that doesn't hurt you is an inherited IRA. You might have problems, and realize also spouses can be different. So you might have a big rollover IRA, but your spouse has no other IRAs. So maybe the spouse can do a Roth conversion strategy, but you can't. So pay attention to that. That's the first thing. So, because maybe the answer is both still, but you have to do a little extra work and planning to do a backdoor Roth. When people don't have, let's just assume you can't do the backdoor Roth conversion strategy. So now you're like, man, I hate to walk away from that tax-free growth. It does become a little more nuanced, and this is when you do, I hate to, because all roads point to that abundance cycle. This is where you need a financial advisor to help you navigate this. You got to figure out the why, because, when do you need this money? What's your savings goals for retirement? What's your anticipation of what's going to happen with tax rates? And then also the fact that if you're in the 37% tax bracket and you live in the state of California and you're paying 13% income and 50% of every dollar is going to taxes, then you're probably going to say, well, I love Roth money. I love that tax-free growth. But you know what would be cool is to have the government fund 50% of this retirement contribution by actually taking a tax deduction by loading up the traditional pre-tax. So all that stuff comes into play. And that's why I say you do graduate to a point of maybe you need to take the relationship to the next level.
Natasha, this is your lucky day because I just happen to be in the chat, so I can see you responding to us right now. That's how fluid this gets to be. She says, hey, I can't do the back door. I have a rollover.
Yeah.
But remember, she said one of the things she was thinking about was contributing to her 401k, putting the $6,000. Is it in fact true that Natasha cannot do a backdoor, or might there be some things that she should investigate potentially?
No, be careful,
All
Natasha.
I said was investigate. All I said was investigate.
And then make sure you don't screw this up, because you're dealing with lots of zeros typically on these accounts, so you want to do it right. But what Bo's saying is, look, you have a 401k, assuming it's with a good provider, and it's not just your golf buddy of the owner of your company, and it's some loaded up, high expense, poor investment choices. But maybe it's with a Vanguard, a Charles Schwab, or a Fidelity Investments, because they do a lot of the Fortune 500 and a lot of the larger plans out there, and they're good. And what Bo's alluding to is that there might be a potential where you roll over your assets or roll it into your employer-provided plan, assuming that the document's written to where it allows those type of contributions. And then maybe you can, at some point in the future, because realize there's some things you have to make sure you do legally and they're appropriately and structured right. But if you do some of these things, you can create an opportunity in the future to where you could make yourself eligible for Roth conversions.
I think you answered that incredibly well.